question is why we're here in Dover, and the simple answer is that Dover is the center of the economic development universe, and I can prove it. We were in Dover on November 1st for the Southern Vermont Connectivity Summit as part of the Southern Vermont Economy Project, and at that meeting, one of the most substantial things that we were able to announce was the US EDA, the Economic Development Administration's grants that it supplied to BDCC, BCIC, to its Southern Vermont partners for a comprehensive economic development strategy. That is this strategy, what this strategy will become, what this process will provide us, what we will provide to this process. And so we were dependent upon our federal partners to give us that assistance. And it was with that assistance that we were able to bring in the experts in whose experienced and capable hands we will be throughout this process. A little bit about those four hands. There's two people. The first is, I'd like to talk about Rachael Cesky. Rachel's been with Camoin Associates since 2008 after graduating from the University at Albany with a master's degree in regional planning. She is certified through the American Planning Association, through the National Charette Institute, and is well on her way to pursuing economic development professional certification status through the International Economic Development Council. And so she has been growing in her roles at Camoin in those last 10 years, and is now a project manager there, and has been taking on a number of the larger economic and fiscal impact analyses all throughout the Northeast. She is based out of Brattleboro. Camoin is, its headquarters are in Saratoga, and so their esteem of her capability knows no state bounds. Secondly, Mark Waterhouse is the additional component to this two-person team. Mark has been in economic development since 1972, and he's the president of Garnet Consulting Services. He is a graduate of Dartmouth College, and he is the former dean of the University of Oklahoma's Economic Development Institute. He is also a certified instructor for the Certified Economic Development Counselor professional course, which is how I met him just a few months ago. He is also a captain in the United States Marine Corps. So he's accustomed to seeing a lot of people drop off throughout the course of the day in respect to training, and he's accustomed to that. So he knows that it takes the best to be the best, etc. But he was a company commander of a combat engineer company in Vietnam, and so we value his service as well in all manners in which he has provided it to us in any sort of geographic scale. In any event, I know they have a good bit to get through, and so I welcome to the stage Rachael Cesky and Mark Waterhouse.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was a great introduction, and thank you, President Silver. That was a perfect segue while I was watching. It was perfect for what we're going to do. So, as Jonathan said, my name is Rachael Cesky. I am part of the team from Camoin Associates, who has been hired to assist Windham and Bennington County in creating the first ever Southern Vermont Economic Development Strategy. It's a really big deal. It's really exciting. And so yesterday we had the first kickoff meeting with the steering committee. We had great conversations around vision and opportunities and challenges. And coming in today, this is the perfect complement and perfect start. The energy in the room and the ideas is really fantastic. And I'm really excited to see so many partners and stakeholders involved early. You're going to be called on to be involved continuously through implementation. So be prepared to work. This is a really exciting process, and we need all hands on deck to really make a change here that we all want to see. So we are working with the two counties. We will be facilitating, supporting, and guiding the development of the economic development strategy. You heard David talk earlier about the outcomes of the previous Windham County CEDS, and so we will be creating a similar document for all of Southern Vermont. This is our overall process. You can see we're about at task 4 at this point. We're doing stakeholder interviews, the economic summit, and committee meetings. But the three real key pieces of a comprehensive economic development strategy is first starting on with good data, so understanding where we are, what are the existing conditions. The second is having really good conversations and networking and identifying opportunities through the process. And strategic planning, there is an end goal, but really the overall process is just as important to bring people together and identify opportunities and where we can collaborate and partner. And then the third piece is identifying specific projects, actions, and tasks that can be implemented through federal funding, through partnerships, through state funding, through a wide variety of programs. And so our final deliverable will be a full economic development strategy, but most importantly, it will be an action plan matrix that outlines the goals of the community, the vision for the community in terms of economic development, and then specific tasks and actions that need to be implemented in order to achieve that vision. And so we also identify priority levels, timeframes, partnerships, measures for success, resources needed to implement. And so that will be the final action plan matrix that will guide implementation and really help the region move forward. And so we are intending that to be done in November. So it's a pretty compressed process, about 6 months or so, with a number of public engagement sessions throughout, and you'll hear more about the ones in June. But I would just ask you all, you're all stakeholders here in the community, I would ask you to keep your eye out for those public meetings. Ask your neighbors to come, invite your colleagues, invite your peers, and reach out to your community and get them to come to the public meeting so that we can hear from them and identify a real strategy that can be implemented and have a real positive impact on quality of life, economic development, community services, the whole range of services and impact that an economic development strategy can have. So today we are, as I said, kind of still kicking off the project and collecting community input. And so the previous presentation from the president was awesome, really getting us in the mind frame around identifying assets and identifying a vision. And so what we are going to do, I'm going to ask Mark to introduce it, but we're going to do a little bit of a work at your tables and then report back. And again, if you guys want to get coffee or a cookie throughout, feel free. But Mark, do you want to just introduce that piece?
Yes, please. Good afternoon. My job is to give you a challenge. We've been talking about vision statements. Any of you Dilbert fans? Dilbert says a vision statement is a long, awkward sentence that demonstrates management's inability to think clearly. Okay? Guess who's the management of the Southern Vermont region? You. Okay? Not our job to write your vision statement for you. We can help you capture it, but the vision's got to come from you, because you're the stakeholders and you are the management. So as we do this particular exercise, talking about half of you current situation and opportunities, half of you future vision and opportunities, you remind yourself of what President Silver said earlier in her remarks. Most vision statements are either a laundry list or platitudes. Frequently, they are a laundry list of platitudes. Okay? When you do this exercise, if you're talking about the current situation, you need to be brutally honest. And if you're talking about the future possibilities, you need to be boldly aspirational. Because if you're not brutally honest and you're meek in your approach 10 years from now, you will be in exactly the same situation you are now. And you don't want that.
All right. So let's say if you're on the window, I guess those are the windows. If you're on the middle to the windows, why don't you do the questions around the current situation? And talk amongst yourselves, have a note taker, and then if you're on this side of the room, the cookie side, you'll do the future. And then what we'll do is we'll give you, Sarah, how are we on time? We're good. So let's do about 15 minutes or so, talking at your table, taking notes, and then we'll report out if you have something interesting, what was the most interesting thing you identified, and we will go from there. Sound good? And we'll be floating if you have questions. Thank you. All right, great guys, thank you. I'm going to do 2 pieces of housekeeping before we ask for your feedback. The first is that anything you took notes on for this conversation, if you could just deposit them. You said there.
Outside the door.
there's a box outside the door, so anything you took notes on, so that we can kind of collect it all, that would be great. And then the second is outside near where you registered, there are big pieces of paper on the wall with Post-it notes and pens, asking a number of questions, and some people have been filling it out throughout the day. But if as you're leaving you want to add your Post-it note, please feel free to do that. That's just another way for us to collect information and guide the development of the CEDS. So what I'd like to do now is ask that we go around table to table. If you could just say if you were current or if you were paying attention to like current or future, and then talk to me and tell the group about some of the interesting things or ideas that you had and things that you focused on. Yeah, all right, start there.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. It was interesting. The first 5 minutes, we were thinking about things that were kind of more normal. And then as we went on and on, we got bolder.
So you were future.
We are future. So we have immediate, so 20 years from now, here we are, we have immediate high-speed internet service. We have plenty of, and these are in no particular order, we have plenty of skilled tradespeople. We have a complete green and sustainable economy. And with that, we have a SERP-based road stabilization aggregate that we add to the roads when we come to mud season. We have solar electrical charges statewide. So the average age of the population is in the 40s, mid-40s. Public schools are well attended and funded. The population is 20% non-white. Gender and wage gaps have been eliminated. Everyone has a livable wage or more. There is ample quality workforce housing, and it's in good repair. We have adequate transportation, rail, bus, bike infrastructure, and hovercrafts. We have electric assist bikes available to anyone over 60. We have low-density public transit, and that is a 2 or 4 person module that's linkable to other ones down the road.
Great.
There you go.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Great.
We did current conditions, and we said that, so special and unique, we said that we have over 1 million people within 50 miles of at least Bennington. Good secondary education. It's easy to be heard. We're in a small state, so you can get to like the State House easy. The Vermont brand is something that is known nationwide. Entrepreneurial mindset is common among people, and there's lots of opportunity. And then we said for like assets, mountains, lakes, history, we take care of people, independent, holistic thinking, renewable energy, and we have a river that travels north. That's cool. Question 3, we said we weren't diversified. We kind of depended on manufacturing. We have very old housing, high property taxes and utilities, and Act 250.
How about someone on the future side? Great.
Make sure Sarah gets her exercise.
Yep. Not that I haven't already. Thank you.
So we were talking about the future, and I think we were a little more big picture than some other tables. We talked about being better connected and being young and vibrant and open-minded and business-friendly, something that I think we struggle with in this state. In order to make that happen, I think the high-speed internet was something we talked about a lot, and maintaining our infrastructure. But one of the things we really talked about was what would you want to see stay the same in 20 years, and that is that what makes Vermont, you know, sort of old timers and the slow pace and the beauty and all of that is the one thing you'd never want to lose, despite the growth that we're trying to see here.
Great. Yeah.
That was the perfect springboard to what we talked about. We talked a lot about the Vermont brand, and we talked about
taking the nostalgia of Vermont and bringing that into the now. So these stories we tell, we take that unique Vermont heritage and tell it in the frame of tomorrow's stories and how you can be here and it's a good place to be. The other one was opportunities as a glance, that in the future we would have the ability for people to come here to start their business, or entrepreneurs to get started, or even people to connect socially, that would all be available at a glance, because right now a lot of things are available and people cannot find those resources. And then the last one, we had a bunch, but the last one I'll say is to make small an advantage, to really take the fact that we are small and really leverage that and build that out as a really positive asset.
So we also had future. So we described our future similarly to everybody else, was youthful, healthy, vibrant, diverse, energetic, socially responsible, innovative. We hope to have amazing high-speed internet and abundant and widespread transportation, which is also the two things that we need to change, because we need those things. We talked about better usage of our 50-plus workforce, maybe looking for that to be an attraction. We thought about having a 4-year state university down in Southern Vermont, because the closest one stops in Castleton to us. So that's that would be an attractor. What we would really like to keep is our local focus and our sense of community and our beautiful landscape and forests, waters, our clean waters and our rivers, and our arts and culture.
Hello. So I would say that we sort of talked a bit of a combination of sort of what makes Southern Vermont unique, as well as some key assets. The first thing that we touched on, I think, was obviously the high quality of life we have in Vermont, sort of at the same time with the accessibility to urban areas, especially in Southern Vermont. So sort of launching off what Mariko was talking about, what would draw people here to Vermont. We talked a lot about how you could make connections in New York City or Boston and bring those professional connections with you, not feel like that they're a total loss if you're moving to somewhere like the middle of the state. So we were talking a lot about what would draw students here, and I think that we already have a lot of what the current millennials, or was it Gen Yers? I don't even know what the new batch is called, Gen Zs, would be looking for. And I think that for having such a rural landscape in Vermont, we have an unusual amount of culture at the same time. So instead of feeling like you need to live in a sort of urban jungle to go to the theater or concerts, you can live in Vermont, drink micro beer, go to beautiful restaurants, and still be in a town that's less than 10,000 people. So those are just some things that we touched on.
I'm going to pick on this young-looking table over here. Okay, so we talked about a lot of the same things that other people are talking about. Diverse communities, particularly, I think it would be easier for people to imagine themselves here if we, were a model for that. Affordable communities, and in terms of housing and childcare, not just affordable housing, but housing at all would be great. Thanks. Higher wages, definitely we pay a paradise tax for living here, and better infrastructure in terms of transportation and things like that. Some of the things that we identified as things that we need in order to accomplish those things, just, a big one is just a willingness to change, right? Like, I think that we have a very possessive idea of like what Vermont is, and we need to be open to new ideas about that. One of the things we also talked about was a reduction in emphasis on tourism in the economy. It's great to have lots of seasonal jobs, but seasonal jobs are seasonal. A more forward-thinking view of economic activities, more regional collaboration and events and things like that. permissive and scalable zoning for businesses, and some forward-thinking healthcare policy, particularly as we think about our aging population and childcare and things like that. So.
Okay, sorry, he took the notes. Okay. We talked about current conditions, especially unique, competitive, environmental, local food experience, partnerships. We have a lot of great partnerships in the area, and I really like the idea of scale, both in population and in area, things that are approachable and accessible. Let's see, of course, beautiful. And then I, of course, sorry, had to be the negative voice here. Not all populations are heard or connected. I was speaking to the parent voices and also the 16 to 24, those people who are looking around and saying, I'm not wanted here, and how can we change that? And yeah, that's all I have written down. Sorry, guys.
Okay, let's see. So in looking at where the current conditions, special, unique, competitive, the accessibility to the area. This table is all from Brattleboro, so we didn't get too many input on the Bennington side. But the accessibility, I-91, the train, even the airport in Hartford not being far. One of the competitive, unique as well, is it's a world-class, considered a world-class artist center, draws a lot of artistic people, and there seems to be a lot of different artistic mediums that's offered, and that there seems to be a lot of support for that as well to grow it. Some of the key assets, natural infrastructure, the second part was, let me just see if I can read my notes here. Again, the accessibility, that doing business here, even if you're doing it remotely, you are with less than a day's access to all the major metro areas in the air, including even Montreal across the border. There's a lot of advanced educational resources here. The natural resources as far as outdoor activities, anybody's interested in, all the sports. Some of the positive things that the question was brought to us to the region's situation today is a desire to preserve the community values that establish and make Vermont what we all know it, but being able to control the directions that it's going to a certain respect. The negatives were the housing, the childcare, everything everyone has said, the jobs, and and the lack of internet accessibility in the region.
Fun thing about going later in the talk is most of the things that we thought of have already been brought up. I found out today that Wilmington and Whitingham have a town nurse, and they see you for a very reasonable fee, I'm told. One of the big special unique factors is the small state that we're in affords us accessibility to policy and decision makers that in my short life has been unrivaled. I've met more senators and legislators here than I could ever hope to have met in New York. And opportunities to pass on generational cultural knowledge. As far as key assets, we have GNAT, CAT TV, BCTV, so our local and regional public access. We have vast natural resources up here. We have the CDC, CCV, and tech centers. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, but Bennington County is a hub zone. So if you're in the line of work that bids on federal contracts, you want to look into that. We have the Mover, the Green Mountain Express, and the airport and Rensselaer train shuttle now. And most of all, we have people that are here now and that are passionate and seek success. What got us to where we are now, glossing over the things that, people have already mentioned, there's a lack of a standardized, clear communication pathway that affects newcomers and longtime residents. Our information distribution system is fragmented, and there are either gaps or duplicated efforts a lot of the time. Too many acronyms is something that came up at this table, which is not a dig at, and, housing and communication and cell phone and, all the stuff that everybody's been saying so far this afternoon. Thank you.
Any last comments or things that you found interesting? I think we're running up against the end here. Let me just show you, in terms of next steps, these are the public engagement meetings. As I said, please invite your neighbors, invite your colleagues, invite your community and your networks to come out. This plan will only be as good as the public engagement and the conversations and the partnerships. So check that out. It's also on the back of the little half sheet that was in your program. But I like the idea to take a picture of it. Very smart. And text it to all your friends. And that's it. So thank you guys so much. That was our piece, and I'm really excited to get started.